All right, now today I'm going to do a thumbnail drawing in preparation for a painting. And that's the purpose of a thumbnail drawing, is to simplify my subject, to break it down to big, simple shapes, ideally 4 to 6 big shapes, and 2 to maybe 3 values, sometimes 4. But the goal is not a finished drawing in itself. It's always to be able to see my subject in more simple shapes and values, and that makes it easier to paint. As you can see by the subject here, there's a lot going on, and I have to simplify it if I'm going to paint it correctly. So I have the sketchbook here. I have a bunch of little templates just made out of cardboard from the back of spiral notebooks, cheap little thin cardboard. And this is the same shape as a 9 by 12 and an 18 by 24 because I want my drawing to correspond proportionately to the same size as my canvas. And I'm going to do a 9 by 12 of this. And my pencil here is an ebony pencil, very soft, very dark, so easy to draw with. And I want to go from very light gesture drawing to gradually getting the dark shapes in there. And I'm going to reduce this to 3 values. The lightest will be the paper. Darkest will be when I'm pressing down with the pencil, and then a middle value where I'm pressing a little bit lighter. But all my values will be forced into those 3 values, and that makes you simplify. And then the shapes, I want to try and get it from 4 to 6 to 8 shapes. Because if I can reduce my subject to that number of shapes and 2 to 3 values, then it's a lot easier to simplify. And it's a lot easier to paint if you can simplify shapes and values. Because I'm much more able to figure out color on fewer values and make corrections than if I have 10, 12, 15 values and I'm trying to figure out color. It becomes very, very difficult. So reducing shapes and values really helps figure out color. Also helps you figure out the design, the composition. So I'm going to start out here. My focus is the water. So I'm going to put my pencil down and not pick it up. I'm just going to lightly start scribbling, and I'm getting the shape of the water in there. It's not going to be perfect, but it gives me a start where I'm going to place this shape of the water here in relation to the top and the bottom of the page. I want some room for tree trunks. I make that a little smaller. I do have an eraser. I try not to use it too much. I'm also just finding the boundaries of the water, which gives me kind of the shape of the rocks, or some of the shape. And I'm going to simplify a lot of the rocks as well, where I might see 5 or 6 rocks here. I might just put 2 or 3. So seeing the negative and the positive shapes helps me kind of outline or get the shapes of the rocks and the tree trunks. So getting here the shape of this water and the negative shapes of the rocks sets everything up. Now I can decide, I want the tree trunk in here, this main one. I'm going to hit maybe 3 or 4 tree trunks out of the, 15 I see there. And I'll place this one here. The photograph gives me kind of the shape of the tree trunks and which way they lean, but I might decide to lean one another way, this leaning in this way to counterbalance this one that's real straight. And it's another really leaning one here. I don't want them all lean the same way or the same amount, but I'll have counterbalancing lines here. Okay, I really don't want any more tree trunks than that. Again, keep it simple. I'm going to drop my water down to here. But I will keep scribbling or gesturing until I'm happy with the shape of the water, because that sets up everything here. Okay. I think that will do it. And again, the end result is not a finished drawing. So I'm wanting to just to be able to simplify. Sometimes the drawings look a bit more abstract. Now I'm going to kind of look for dark shapes and lightly start scribbling. I can always, or scribbling in the value, or gesturing in the value. I can always go darker. So I don't want to press down real dark at first. So I'm going to get these big dark shapes. Even if I outline them first where they're real distinct on the rocks, that kind of helps simplify things a bit more. And this is my dark, which will get darker. So I'm forcing all these values into a dark right here. Tree trunk will be a dark. It's a dark mass in here where I'll have a light fallen tree trunk right in there. And another one right here. Then I have a mass of dark rocks. Again, right now I'm hitting in the darks lightly. And then we'll add kind of the halftones. And I'm not holding real close to the edge with the pencil like I'm writing. It becomes kind of heavy-handed. You get too dark. Here I can kind of control a little bit better, holding it far back. Dark shape here. Again, trying to stick with one value. Doesn't have to be perfect in the sense that it's all one same value, just general idea of just working with three values. And right now I'm just thinking of the darks. It's a cloudy day, so I don't have big areas of shadow pattern and light area. I just have big shapes of dark and light that are next to each other. And I'm not getting too angular yet with, I'll do a little bit here of kind of outlines. I want to see shape as much as possible. I do want to outline this shadow right in here. A little water there. And again, this is kind of just a basic idea to kind of work out composition. Where on my canvas are these three sets of rocks going to be in relation to these darks and so on. So trying to keep it. And squinting at the photograph helps a little bit. Some shrubbery or small tree or foliage in here. That's going to be more shadow. Foliage up in there is going to be more light. This is going to be light here. So looking for where I'm placing that pattern of dark. And again, don't worry about being perfect. And a lot of times I'll do 2 or 3 of these. And most of them I would be kind of done by now, because I'm just quickly trying to get big basic shapes, but I'm taking my time a little bit more here. I want to move this rock out into the rushing water. All right, now I can be more definite. I'm going to really, still not pressing down as hard as I can, because then it looks a little harsh. I always want to get a little lighter. Then there's another tree trunk here. Tree trunks always gradually taper as they go up. They're not going to suddenly taper or get real thick and then thin again. They're always just going to gradually taper. I'm going to angle this tree trunk a little bit more. All right. So I'm going to take the eraser. I'm going to have a fallen log right there. And I haven't pressed down very hard yet on the dark, so I could have put this in earlier. I don't see a branch coming out, but I'm going to put one in there anyway. Now I want to make sure I set up what I had found the rushing water, the white of the rushing water. I want to scrape that out just a little bit. And then here I got it set out pretty well as well. So there's kind of my dark shape. I see it kind of in here, my dark pattern. And I can start pressing down a little harder now. But not real hard. I'm still kind of just lightly getting pressure on there, just enough to get it a little bit darker. I'm ignoring some of all this foliage that's in here that kind of is in the way. I want to see more of the rocks. Just looking for dark and light shape. The shape in there. There's some shape of some rocks here. And then these rocks here. Again, I don't have to get the drawing exactly it is in the reference. I can change things to make it work better in the composition. And again, the purpose of this is just to simplify. I've done that already. I could just stop here and use this as the kind of the guide to how I'm going to simplify things. Try and get a little branch in there. And I haven't done too much outline. I'm trying to see more just shape. Using the three values just to create shape in here. And there's a rock here, and the water gets dark as it comes down into the foam. And I got more halftone in here. And my filling in is more like scribbling. I'm not worried about getting everything solidly filled in. And my dark is going to come into here. I mean, I want it darker, but I'm not pressing down so hard to get a real flat. I kind of did in there. I don't care for that as much, but just enough pressure to get it slightly darker. And then same thing in here. This is more halftone, and then the shadow the darker values down in here. And I can kind of see the shape and the shape of the shadow on these rocks, because that's what I'm going to be rendering in the painting, is the shapes and sizes of shadow, of light, of halftone. And if I get them right, then it'll work. Those rocks there. I want a little bit of the water back in here as well. Then I'm going to have some lighter foliage. I'll kind of wipe out for where I see it on the tree trunk, because it overlaps the tree trunk quite a bit. Kind of scribbling for that value. And I'm going to have lighter foliage in here. Okay, now I want to start over here. I don't want to start here. I'll just smear it because my hand will be on it. And again, just lightly filling in the dark. Leaving where the lighter foliage is going to be. But don't forget that the goal is to simplify. And if I can simplify what I'm looking at, again, going to be easier to paint. And I'm not trying to reproduce the reference exactly. I'm trying to suggest a simpler version of the shapes. Now where I want some more harder edges, I can come back and create harder edges. All right, now I want to, on these tree trunks, they're going to be, I want probably two values because they're just too big to be one solid value. Or too tall. They're real thin, but from top to bottom. So generally, and I see it here as well, they are darker at the base. So I'll press down a little harder. Again, more of just a darker scribble. It shows more texture on the tree trunk. It gets a little lighter in the center and starts to get darker again as it goes up. Fix the top here. It has a definite shape that I think is important. As the water's coming down and darker here. So thinking in terms of three values, dark, and trying to separate the dark and halftone and light being the paper as much as possible. But I can use this now for my thumbnail drawing, and my subject will be a lot easier to see. It is more of a halftone in here as well. A lot more easier to see and figure out the big shapes and values. But that also means not starting with the photograph. So when I'm painting here, start my drawing stage of the painting, I want to use the thumbnail drawing, because that's where I've made the changes. That's where I've simplified everything. And if I do the thumbnail drawing and then just start copying the photograph, I might as well not have done the thumbnail drawing. To make it useful, you have to use it for the beginning stages of the painting. And I'll always have it near the painting, even as I get deeper into the painting, because again, this shows me the big, simple shapes and the three simple values. And it's easy in the middle of the painting to kind of get away from that. You get too many little details going. This reminds me to keep things more simple. Now here's my finished thumbnail drawing, and generally thumbnail drawings are 10 to 12, 15 minutes long. Sometimes I get carried away. I really enjoy drawing, so I'll turn it into more of a finished drawing, but the thumbnail drawings don't have to be that. Their sole purpose is to simplify the subject, to find the big shapes of dark and light. Even if it's more abstract, it'll just help to get the drawing down on the canvas board and come up with a good composition. This is where you work out all the problems. A lot of times I'll do 2 or 3 of them. This is a vertical. I might try a horizontal also, or a square, just to find the best format for the painting. Now here is the canvas board. Here's the painting itself, canvas or the palette over here on the right. But I used the thumbnail drawing to do the drawing on the canvas board. I used burnt sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue, and a lot of paint thinner. And just looked for the big patterns of light and the dark shapes and a little bit of halftone value, just the 3 values. Keeping the shapes big and simple. That makes it so much easier to draw that on the canvas. And I have the thumbnail drawing over on the left where you can't see, and that's what I'm looking at. The photograph of the scene is on the right on a computer screen. And I do look at it, but it's the thumbnail drawing that I'm really looking at to establish the composition on the canvas board. And this makes the painting and color choices so much easier because I've simplified the subject, and it starts with the thumbnail drawing. So at first it's kind of hard to use them because you're not used to trying simplifying your subject through a thumbnail, and you end up using the photograph more to look from. But keep doing it. Eventually you'll be able to find the best composition and get it drawn on the canvas board a lot easier. Now here is the finished painting from there. This was a demonstration, about a 2-hour demonstration, hour and 45 minutes, and I will be live, and I will go through the whole demonstration. I'll have it on video. That way I can pause it and talk about certain things that's going on in the painting. And then afterwards we'll have a question and answer period. So hope you can be there for that, and I hope this was helpful. And if you want more information for the live demo, just look at the link below. There's some information there to look at. So hopefully we will see you there.